Okay, Genesis 26 through 30. I don't know how I missed this. I had it on my camera, and then I guess as I did more videos, it took it off of it. So now there's a famine in the land, as in the days of Abraham. And the Lord appeared to Abraham, told him not to go to Egypt, but to stay where he tells him to, for he'd be with him. Because he's going to give him all these countries to his seed if he performed the oath. And he will perform the oath which he swore to Abraham. He'll make his seed multiply as the stars of heaven. And will give unto thy seed all these countries. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. So Isaac was with Rebekah, and then he had to lie again and say she was his sister because he's afraid of men to kill him. And then the king saw him sporting with Rebekah, and Abimelech called Isaac, and she said, "This is your wife, man. Why did you lie to us?" And he told him, "Well, I was afraid y'all would kill me." See, he told him that one of our people could have easily lied with thy wife, and y'all would have brought a guiltiness upon us. And he charged his men, saying, "If y'all touch her, you'll be put to death." And so that's shows that there was some kind of morals then. So Isaac sowed in the land, and he received the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. And he waxed great, and grew, he became very great. He had possessions of flocks and herds, and servants, and the Philistines envied him. They got jealous. It's the thing, when you're doing good, people's going to get jealous of you. The wells that Abraham, his father, dug, the Philistines had filled them up with dirt. Instead of juicing them and drinking them and just overtaking the wells, they're going to fill them up with dirt. So the king told him, "Y'all are getting mightier than us," and he told him to leave. So he went towards Gerar, and he dug again, and then which they did in the days of Abraham. And the Philistines stopped them after the death of Abraham. So they kept digging and fighting for the water in the well, and they finally got to a place where they didn't strive for the water. And the Lord appeared unto him that night. He said, "I'm with thee and will bless thee and multiply your seed." So he built an altar there, and the king went to him with a friend and the captain of his army, and he wanted to make an oath with him. He said, "We saw certainly the Lord was with thee, and we said, let there now be an oath between us that we won't do each other no harm." And the thing is, the king saw the Lord was with him. So did the king want to know the Lord, or he just it's like, "Well, the Lord's with you, just don't bother me, let me do my own thing"? So they ate, drank, or whatever, and made an oath, and then they left. And Isaac was 40 years old. Esau was 40 years old, and he took wives of the Hittites, and they was a grief to Isaac and Rebekah. The women of the Hittites from the land of Canaan, I don't think there's a grief to them because of their race, but I think there's just heathen women, crazy and wild and, loudmouthed, I guess. Just not what they're used to, I guess. So now Isaac's getting old and ready to die. And he told his son Esau to go out in the field to get him some venison and fix him something that he loves so he can eat and bless him before he dies. Then Rebekah heard it, and she got Jacob, told him, "Get me some food, give me some goats, so we can bring venison to your father so he can bless you before he dies." And so he obeyed her and listened. And she dressed him up as Esau. And Jacob was afraid because he's like, "Well, what if, I get caught? I'll get cursed." And she said, "No, the curse will be on me because I told you to do this." So he did it, and Jacob saw his father, and his father asked him, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm Esau, your firstborn." I've done it according to what you told me to. And he's like, that fast? And he said, the Lord provided me the meat. So he did. He said, well, your voice is of Jacob's. And he felt him, but your hands are of Esau. So he discerned his voice, and he blessed him. And, he got that blessing. So there's power in the words. When you bless somebody, you say something to somebody, there's power in it. And it's just like these days, people made an oath and they kept it. Today, promises are a rare thing to get from a person that will actually keep a promise or an oath that they make with somebody. Even with marriages, death do you part, and you make that vow before God, and people get divorced in a heartbeat. It's hard for people to stick by their word that they swear to people. He basically told him, let the people serve you, and the nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brethren. Let your mother's sons bow down to thee, and cursed be the ones that curse you, and blessed be the ones that bless you. So after Isaac got done blessing him, Jacob ran away because he was scared. And then Esau came and said, here's your venison, let thy soul bless me. And Isaac's like, well, who are you? He said, I'm Esau, your firstborn. And he trembled. He said, who? He said, who's that brought me the food, and I blessed him already? And he shall be blessed. So there's power in his word. And Esau cried exceedingly bitter cry. And he knew his brother snuck and stole his blessing. And you think about that, when God blesses us with things, we must not take it for granted. Whether it be a job, a wife, children, your place to live, anything. Because people want to take away your blessings from you that God provides you with. So Esau wept, but Isaac blessed him anyway and told him, you're going to break your yoke from off your neck. Which means in the later days in their kingdom, when Israel has a kingdom and stuff, they'll be ruling over the land of Edom, but then they'll break free from that rule, which happens later on in the chapters. So she called Jacob and told him, Esau wants to kill you, which he did. So she told him to flee and go with Laban for a couple days until his anger leaves him. So then Rebekah told Isaac, I'm weary because of the daughters of Heth, and he wants Jacob not to take a daughter of Canaan and all that. She wants him to take it from his own people. So Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him to not take a daughter of Canaan, but to go to the land of his mother's family and take a daughter. So Jacob went away. Esau saw that the women of Heth didn't please Isaac, so he went and got women of Ishmael, of the Ishmaelites, and he took 2 wives. So Jacob went his way, and he dreamed a dream and saw a ladder going up to heaven. He saw angels going up and down it. And he saw God at the top of the ladder. And he said, I am the Lord God of Abraham thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land where you lie I'll give to you and your seed. And your seed will be the dust of the earth. And all families will be blessed through your seed. See, it's talking about Christ again. With that seed, Christ, he'll bless all the families of the earth if we turn to him. He said, he's with him, he'll keep him where he goes. He'll bring him again to the land. For he'll not leave him until he has done that which he spoke of. Now, of course, Jacob's dead today. But his seed's alive. And God is with them, and he'll bring them back to the place which he spoke of. He won't leave them until then. So Jacob awoke and was freaked out. And, he knew that was the place where God dwelt. So he rose up and left. He made a pillar there and poured oil on top of it. And he named it. And then he vowed a vow saying, if God will be with me and give me bread and clothes, so I come to get my place, then he shall be my God. And his stone is set for a pillar. It shall be God's house. And he said, everything God gives him, he'll give him a tenth. So that's the first mention of a tithe, to give to God's work. Now people are crooks, and they will use that for their own pleasures, making excuses of their work being God's work when they're really out there just to get rich. So think of, if you do give to the purpose of God and stuff like that, just think hard about who you're giving your tithe to and the purpose of it and the purpose behind it. So he went on his journey and came to the land of the people of the east, and he looked and he saw a field where sheep was there and a flocks, and there's a big well there. And he came in and asked them who they was, and they said, we're of Haran. And he asked about Laban, and he said he's okay. And there's his daughter coming down with the sheep, and he saw her, and he gave her a kiss and wept. And Jacob told her who he was and everything about him. She ran and told Laban, and he ran down to meet him and brought him to the house. And then basically he wanted him to work for him. You know, he said, you're my flesh and my bone. What will your wages be? And he told him, I'll serve you 7 years for your daughter Rachel. Because Laban had 2 daughters. Leah was the oldest. She was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful. So he served him 7 years. And then he got married. Then a honeymoon. And I take it he didn't know who he was with because she had a veil on her face, so he didn't know who it was. And he was with Leah. So he got married. And basically he had a feast, and he took Leah, his daughter, and he went in to her. And he woke up and saw it was Leah. Now Leah also had her Zilpah, her maid. And they asked him, why'd you do this? I served you for Rachel. Why'd you trick me? He said, well, we can't give our youngest before our eldest to marry. So he served another 7 years. And he got Rachel and her handmaid Bilhah. But he loved Rachel more than Leah. And God saw that Leah was hated, and he opened up her womb. So then she had some kids. She had 4 kids. She had Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. And Rachel didn't have no kids. So that gets all good old family fussing here. Then she envied her sister, so she told Jacob, give me children or I'll die. And he's like, well, who am I, God? You know, he's the one who held you from the fruit of your womb. You know, basically, why can't you have kids? It's your fault. You know, whatever. I can't do nothing about it. So she gave Jacob her handmaid Bilhah, and he went into her, and she had kids. And she conceived a son, named him Dan. And she conceived again and had another one, and named him Naphtali. And Leah saw that he left her alone and hasn't went into her, so she gave him her handmaid Zilpah. And she had a son named Gad, and then another son, his name was Asher. So then one day Reuben went out to the harvest, and he got some mandrakes out the field, which mandrakes are used to help you conceive, to speed up labor and all that. And it's used in a lot of pagan things and stuff, but they had them. And Rachel wanted some. And she told her, well, you already stole my husband, so why you won't take my mandrakes too? So they did their bidding and made her deals. And Rachel told her, well, if you give me the mandrakes, I'll let you have Jacob for tonight. So then he came, and Leah ran to him and told him, you know, I hired you with my son's mandrakes. So he laid with her that night, and she had another son. His name was Issachar. And then she had another son. His name was Zebulun. And afterwards, she had a daughter named Dinah. And God remembered Rachel, and so he opened up her womb, and she had Joseph. So then after they have all the kids, Jacob wants to go to his family, to his kindred, and take his family with him. And Laban told him, you know, if I find favor in your eyes, stay here with me. You know, I've learned by experience, the Lord has blessed me for thy sake. So he wanted to get rich off of Jacob, because Jacob prospered, because God was touching him and used his hands. And he wanted him to, you know, to stay there, because he was greedy. He wanted to use him to be rich. So Jacob told him, you know, I'll make you a deal, we'll do this and that. And then basically, you know, the cattle, I'll raise them up and do this for a couple more years, and then I'll take the ones that are this way, and you take the ones that are that way. And it worked out in Jacob's favor. Like, you can read it in chapter 30 if you want to. But it worked out in his favor, where Laban ended up with all the weak cattle, and Jacob increased. And the men got jealous, and, you know, their countenance fell from each other. Jacob's and Laban's did. And then basically Laban ended up with the weak animals, and Jacob had the stronger ones. He had much cattle, maid servants, men servants, camels, and asses. And then it goes to 31 to where he flees from Laban. So basically Laban bargained with him and, tricked him. You can't trust people, family, in-laws. Only one you can trust is God. So basically that is it. That is Genesis 26 through 30. I had it on here and it deleted it. So I'm trying to just give you the sum up of it and what happened. Basically good old strife between the sisters, giving their handmaids to him. So it's good to just have one woman instead of trying to juggle 4 or 5. It can be a big headache. But God put him in that position for a reason. And that reason was to have those children, which are the tribes, which have the eternal possession of the land, which is promised to them, which was promised to Abraham. See, so maybe the things we go through is a headache, but it's a purpose and a big outcome from the headache, if that makes sense. Alright, have a good night.